Cheers, everybody. We are back. It's Bourbon on a Budget, and we are excited to join you guys for another episode. Myself, TJ Pittenger, Ben Cock, and Brendan Sinone. Gentlemen, I feel like it's been forever since we recorded. How are you guys doing? It hasn't been like a week.
It hasn't, yeah, but it's great to be here. This is such a fun time of week, TJ. Hanging out with my bros, drinking bourbon.
Yeah, man. Love it. My fave. Can't wait.
Oh,
Best friends for life.
Ben, your cabinet back there is looking a little more empty than the last time we recorded. I don't really want to talk about it, but it's got a little less flair to it these days. One day we'll get into why it's a little less empty. Not today.
Yeah. Sad day, but happy day.
This episode or this week is April Fool's Week. This is dropping 2 days before April Fool's. We are excited about tonight's episode. We are very on brand for April Fool's. We are getting into the tricky side of whiskey. We may have some tricks up our own sleeve. We'll see. A little foreshadowing there, as they call this in the biz. But we are getting into the tricky side of whiskey. Bourbon and the industry itself was not always as regulated as it is now. Not always as harmonious, maybe is a good word. I don't know if that was a good word or not, but we'll see. Bourbon used to be a lot more tricky. There used to be a lot more shady things going on. And who better to talk to us about the shadiness than Brendan Sinone? Brendan, talk to us about the tricky side of whiskey.
I'm going to ask for your guys' permission, but I'm going to do it anyways. But I just want to be polite and ask. Can I tell you about the first time I found out about April Fools?
Please tell me about your first time.
So I was about 4 or 5 years old, and my parents were trying to explain to me what April Fool's Day was and the complex or the concept behind it. And it was too complex for me to understand because being a virtuous young child, I didn't understand the idea of like lying to people, being funny and joking about it. And I'm still a great human being and still would never lie and very honorable and all those things. So even now, I still have a hard time grasping it. So my parents said, well, here, we'll give you an example. After daycare today, when we pick you up from work, we will go to Toys R Us and we will buy you any single toy you want, as many as you want. I said, really? I said, no, April Fools. And I cried. And I think that explains a lot about where I'm at now.
They never picked you up from daycare.
No, some other people did. Yeah. So a lot of therapy later, and here I am. I'm okay. I'm a functioning member of society, barely, but I'm here. So yeah, whiskey and specifically bourbon. The bourbon boom it really started becoming. First, whiskey was always involved in American culture, and it was starting to get taxed back by George Washington. And that's when it started becoming bourbon. And so it has a rich history, very much so associated with, and there was actually like a revolt about bourbon in the taxation. And a lot of people moved to Kentucky, and that's where bourbon really kind of grabbed its roots in that new state. So it's been around for a long time. And so as it was kind of becoming more and more prominent, however, in the 1800s, the quote unquote Wild West feel of this like new frontier very much so was synonymous with bourbon because bourbon didn't have a whole lot of regulation. So a couple of examples I think is going to show just how far bourbon's come. And there's some shady practices now where people aren't really clear with like say where something's sourced from. And there's regulations to put that in place. There's so much bourbon, but rewinding back to the 1800s, there was all sorts of crazy stuff going on. So salesmen, for example, it used to be sold not in bottles, but in barrels for the longest time. And so salesmen would come by and bring samples to different like bartenders or distributors and give them a sample of something, right? Well, after they said, yeah, I like that. I want to buy that barrel. So you'd go back to Kentucky, wherever you were making it in, and then you'd ship it out. They would ship out a completely different barrel or a super watered down barrel. It was completely different. And oftentimes like these whiskey rectifiers, these blenders, they again would trick customers to buying these barrels of what they thought was good whiskey. But they would color it, and they didn't have food coloring back then. So they would color it with like, they call it tobacco juice. And basically it was tobacco spit. It was chewing tobacco. And they would use that to help color this more pure distillate. They would use paint thinner. They would use iodine. So there's all these different things that they would do to try to add more quote unquote flavor or color to it. And it was really obviously like paint thinner. You can get really sick off of it. Also, salesmen would compete with each other as well, to the point where like they would spike each other's barrels. So like they would put either like soap in a barrel of a competitor, or like sometimes even poison to try to get other consumers sick if they were buying this barrel. So it was really crazy. The last example that I'll bring up, and this is one that you guys are familiar with, larceny bourbon. There's keys on it, right? And those keys that are on the larceny bourbon bottle are for John E. Fitzgerald. If you're familiar with Old Fitzgerald Bottled and Bond, it was named after this guy. He was considered, at least the branding of his distillery was like, that he created his own distillery from his own hands, and was this Irish man who came to America knowing how to make whiskey and helped make bourbon. But according to a book that was written by Pappy Van Winkle's granddaughter, Sally Van Winkle, the claim here is that Johnny Fitzgerald was actually not the man he portrayed at all, but he was a U.S. Treasury agent who managed to get his hold of 2 different keys. That you had to use 2 keys, almost like a nuclear bomb. Now we had to have both of them to get into it. He would get into rick houses, and he would go and sneak in, find the best barrels. Apparently, he had a proclivity for had to be like on the 5th floor of the rick house, and he had a certain area that he liked to drink. And like security guards or whatever would find him like passed out drunk, because he would use his power to go and steal whiskey or drink whiskey, and from it basically was using his power to steal all this bourbon. But they ended up using those bourbon barrels because he had such great taste and such a refined palate, because he was always drinking and stealing stuff, that they realized, hey, like he's going up to this area, why don't we barrel these as special? And that's how they called them Old Fitzgerald, or so the legend goes. So there was a lot of shady stuff going on through the 1800s, and it led to, and I'm going to throw this to bed now, a certain act that we still know about and celebrate today.
So in the late 1800s, there was a master distiller, Colonel Taylor, and he saw that these practices were going around, or these salesmen were going around and trying to sell a lot of garbage whiskey, or even dangerous whiskey, to a lot of bars and consumers. And he was concerned that since he did everything above board, that the whiskey brand or the bourbon brand was going to go and kind of take a big hit on this. So he lobbied Congress to pass what is known now as the first Consumer Protection Act back in 1897, which is now commonly known as the Bottled and Bond Act. And that regulated what you were able to sell and call it bottled and bond. And back in the day, they would put a green kind of stamp label on it, similar to the Henry McKenna green label on the top of its bottle. And so there's a couple different distinctions that you had to follow to qualify as the bottled and bond. One was you need to be distilled in the same distilling season by one single distillery. You need to be bottled at 100 proof in glass and be aged for a minimum of 4 years. And when they implemented this law, a lot of the riffraff and the tricky whiskey salesmen, they just couldn't keep up, and it gave a lot of confidence back to the consumers that they knew when they bought a bottled and bond bottle that it was going to be 100% bourbon, back to what they were hoping for. So, and when I say Colonel Taylor, that is the Colonel E.H. Taylor, that started that. So his name lives on today from Buffalo Trace.
So it was the Bottle and Bond Act that kind of saved us from the tricky side of whiskey. And so not only are we here, or were we here to talk about the tricky side of whiskey because it's April 1st, another big event this weekend is anybody?
The Super Bowl.
Sorry, I'm muted. Oh God, I couldn't get off of it.
It's not the
Final Four.
Yeah, the Final Four. And so we are going to have our own little Final Four tonight.
Ooh.
A Final Four that consists of 4 different bottles of bonded bourbon. Brendan, I think you have all 4 bottles. Ben has 1. I have 3. So Ben and I live close together. If you haven't picked that up yet from the show, then where have you been? But since Brendan has all 4, let's run down our competitors' For tonight's Bourbon on a Budget Final Four. Starting off
All right.
with our 1 seed.
All right, I'm gonna hold it up here. Can you guys see this beautiful bottle? This is the man that Ben was just talking about, Colonel E.H. Taylor. This is small batch bottled and bond. It's from the Buffalo Trace Distillery. There's a handsome gentleman here, if you can see him, Mr. E.H. Taylor himself.
Much better than what we were seeing before you put that bottle in front of your face.
Hey, he looks like someone who would be a stickler for rules, is all I'm going to say. So this is 10 years old. It is for Buffalo Trace Distillery. It is 100 proof, and I think we're going to really enjoy this one if you guys haven't tried it before. It's excellent. So that's our 1 seed.
2 seed comes in. I'll do this one since we have it. 2 seed comes in. It's Henry McKenna. Ben held his up. Ben, that was a good looking bottle. I don't know where you got that, but whoever got that for you was a great guy. Aged 10 years as well. Bottled in bond, 100 proof, Henry McKenna. Brendan didn't mention this, but you can find that E.H. Taylor small batch for roughly $45, somewhere around
$45. It's starting to get, because it's a Buffalo Trace product, is a good one. It's getting harder to find, but yeah,
Good luck finding it.
Yeah, $45. Henry McKenna you'll find for from $35 to $40.
And that's starting to get jacked up too, because it won some awards a couple years ago. I used to be able to get it for $30 all the time when I first started getting into this. Now, yeah, like you said, TJ, 35 to 40 standard, but I've seen it $50 to $60 in stores too. It's just hard to find. Also, is yours guys a screw off? Because this one, I had 2 or 3 of them. This is the first one that's
no.
It's fake.
I bought the good one that had a
Do you think Colonel E.H. Taylor would approve of this? I wonder if it's as bonded as we've been led to believe.
Well, your next one, your 3 seed, which you also have, is also a screw top. It's not something that's readily available around us, but talk to us about Early Times. Bottle.
I love Early Times. It's awesome. So, and also people who listen to another podcast of mine know that there's a theme song that has to do with Early Times and cheer wine and mixing them together and getting drunk by accident. So I do love Early Times. It's a cool bottle here, the bottled and bond. Now it was from Brown Forman, do Old Forester and Woodford Reserve as well, I believe. But it was bought out not that long ago by Buffalo Trace. So I'm not sure what that's going to do for the future of Early Times Bottle and Bond. It's a fairly new product. It's only been around for a couple of years. You know, Early Times usually bottom shelf. This is amped up a little bit. It's about between $20 to $25. Also 100 proof. Does not have a definitive age statement on this. So I assume that means it's probably 4 years. Usually it's going to hit that minimum mark of 4 years for bottle and bond. If they're not specifying it more than that, it means that it's probably only 4 years old. So that's the Early Times Bottle and Bond.
Ben, you have the last bottle. Talk to us about it. Our 4 seed.
Bringing up the rear, baby. Jim Beam, Old Tub, 1999. The cheapest, most readily available bottle on our list, which is why it's seated last. I didn't do the seating, so anyway. This is a Jim Beam product that they only used to release at the distillery. And people liked it so much that they decided to start bottling it and sell it. So Old Tub, bottled and bond.
So this is a little plug that before we get to this, obviously we didn't do a what are you drinking tonight because we're about to drink 4 different things. And so didn't pour something on the side of it. But I read a book called, and I may have mentioned this either last night or another week, but I read a book called The Bourbon Empire that was fantastic. And it went into a lot of the history that Brendan talked about, a lot of the history that Ben spoke about with the Bottle and Bond Act, went into all 4 of these bourbons and talked about a plethora of bourbons past it, anything from, your $20 or your $13, Jim Beam all the way up to your, Buffalo Trace Antique Collection and stuff that's incredibly hard to find. So really cool book. Check out The Bourbon Pursuit because it was really great if you are new into bourbon or if you've been around forever because there's neat stuff in there. All right. Ding, 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 ding. I just rang the bell. We're here. That was a great bell, by the way. I'm not even going to edit that and put a new one in. We are here.
So is that how basketball games start? Is with bells ringing? I feel like you're mixing sports, boxing, whatever. Hey, this is your tournament. It's your tournament.
I wasn't gonna throw a bottle of bourbon in the air. Like mine aren't screw tops like yours. So
low Hello.
So let's start with, we'll save the 1 versus 4 for prime time. We'll start with 2 versus 3. 2 versus 3 is going to be early times versus McKenna. Henry McKenna versus early times, both Bond and Bond. I got my 2 versus my 3. How did I pick those up? Okay, 2 versus.
Yeah, I'm very concerned about losing the order here. Also, can I just acknowledge
on the left side and this on the right?
You guys want to make fun of my glasses real quick for this? Go ahead, let's get out of the way. Come on. Not going to say anything at all.
Wine glasses.
Stand here like an idiot.
Today, huh? Brennan's drinking out of wine glasses.
I don't have a.
I'm drinking out of beer flight glasses because I had 4 of them and they were all the same size. Obviously, I went really heavy on this pour and light on this one. But anyway, Ben, do you have 4 Glencairns? Is that what you're?
Yeah, I have 4 Glencairns because that's kind of the whole reason we drinking bourbon.
The dude just got his first Glencairn like a week ago. Now
I remember my.
I have 4 of them.
I remember my first time.
I only have 4. There's only matching like glassware of 4 that I have. I wanted it to be fair, so wine glasses. Cheers.
So here we go. I think that it's only fair that the higher seed is what we taste first, nose and taste first, because that should be the standard. It's kind of the home court advantage by being the higher seed. So Henry McKenna, nosing it, pleasant nose. We're not going to go through a full rating of everything tonight, but
brown sugar on it. That's kind of what I'm getting.
A lot of brown sugar, a lot of like vanilla, oak. I mean, like typical bourbon notes, but
it's like a ramped up bourbon, right? Like it's
some kind of good bourbon. Some kind of fruity there. Feels like it's about feels like it's about 100 proof.
Feels like it, yeah.
It's just barely touching the triple digits on proof for me. Let's taste this.
Right.
Tastes like 100 proof too. Oh, I feel so fancy with this wine glass. I'm doing it with the pinky out.
Stop.
That's good. This is really good. I get like a nutty vibe, but not like in not in a bad, like gross, cheap peanut shell kind of way. Like roasted almonds, maybe, like at a sporting event. You know what I mean? They got the cinnamon sugar on it, whatnot. That's kind of what I'm getting here, which I like.
I can see a more like savory kind of nut as opposed to overly sweet fruit.
Yeah, definitely got some good spice in there that gives you that nuttiness. But I like this. I like the good. I like the comparison of the sugary covered nut. Oh God, yeah, that sounded terrible.
That's what
sugar nuts.
Before I get myself canceled, let's move over to the Challenger Early Times Bottled in Bond. Have you guys tasted this one yet?
I'm nosing it.
I get a ton of banana. A banana bomb.
That's brown Formany though, right? Like, isn't
right? Yeah.
That would be on brand with some of the Old Forester banana-y.
So I guess it kind of comes down in my head. Do I like sugar nuts or banana bombs?
Why is your earpiece like? Why do you have 2 wrapped around the same ear? It's driving me nuts.
I like to be able to hear.
Can you hear?
Better to hear.
What in the world? All right, we're not going anywhere with that, but I'm never checking it out. I just no, that's staying in the show. I want people to know that Ben was crazy with that. So,
this is really close. No,
it's a 2-3 matchup. It can go either way. Yeah, I feel like. So I definitely get the banana, but I've talked about the banana and some other things, some of the older Old Forester products, and they come through much heavier than this. I feel like this is really. It's like a hint. Like I want the banana to be there more. Now that you guys mentioned it, but it's like a hint of it, and it's pissing me off a little bit. I wish it was stronger. The Old Forester single barrel is like a banana nut bread to me. Oh, it's fantastic.
So you're asking for stronger banana, is what you are wanting.
He wants more banana in his palate.
Sorry. Yeah, I think I would probably agree with TJ. I'm kind of leaning towards McKenna.
Me too.
But I like the nose better on Early Times, but I think overall
the age is making a big difference. Again, we're assuming, and unless someone can correct me, they're going back and listen to this. Again, there's not the actual age statement on this, assuming it's only 4 years. For the McKenna, sorry, I was holding up the early times for those listening. For the McKenna, which I'm now holding, the 10-year age statement, the oakiness from that, I think is giving it more oomph to it's like taste the early times, go back to the McKenna. Let me know which one you think is better. I think McKenna, when you do them back to back in that order, McKenna shines because of that age. Makes a difference. McKenna, damn it. It was like, I really wanted the Cinderella story there for early times. It was close. I'm going McKenna. What are we doing, guys? McKenna?
Yeah, I think I'm leaning that way.
I just went back and forth as well, and then back and forth and back and forth. And the smoothness of the 10-year, the nutty, I tend to, I mean, I knew Ben would, I know what Ben's going to pick because I know his palate preference. I know he prefers the spice on a lot of things, which comes through so strongly on the McKenna. I tend to go towards sweeter things. And so, man, I really want to pick the early times, but there's no way that I can. The McKenna is just a better overall product. The things that I don't even prefer, and I like rye, I like spice, but it just does them so much better than early times does what they do. This is a good product. Early times is a good product. I'm not down on them at all. If you can find that, or if you're out of the state of Florida, I would say get it because it's pretty cheap and it's a good bourbon. Mm-hmm. But I'm voting McKenna, rendering Ben's vote irrelevant, but are we getting a clean sweep? Well, I just once something gets to 2, it moves on.
I would definitely agree with you. If I can, this is my first time actually having Henry McKenna. So if I'm getting a 10-year-old bottled and bond bourbon for like $30-$35, this is really solid.
Probably closer to 40, but yes, you're
okay. $40 still. This is really, really solid. I'm happy, very happy with this.
We do need to give, I think, both of them, but that early times bottled and bond a fair, isolated review in the near future here. 'Cause that's $25 maximum, and it's punching with a bottle that now is going to be between 35 and 40. So it holds its own. I think it'll do very well in the value contest. But
in early times, that's a liter, right?
No, this one is not.
Mine's 7.
Oh, okay.
750.
I will say early times came out really, really hot in the first half. They were competing strong with Henry McKenna. It was anyone's game at halftime.
Oh my gosh.
But McKenna blew them out in the second half and claims a spot in the championship game. So now for our 1 versus 4 matchup, we have as my 2 lovely co-hosts. Lovely. Has anyone ever called either one of you lovely? My 2 lovely co-hosts broke down. We have E.H. Taylor, Brendan drinking the small batch, Ben and I on the single barrel, probably going to make even a bigger difference in this matchup. We have E.H. Taylor going up against the 4 seed.
$20 Old Tub.
Yeah, Jim Beam's Old Tub. Let's get into this matchup, guys.
Oh man, this is so bad.
Hey, this is a one.
It's not even close right now.
I had the same reaction to Ben did as soon as they smelled them back to back. One smells like delightful. One smells like delightful box of baked goods that just opened up. The other one smells like middle school gym class.
E.H. Taylor's nose is a 2. I know we're not doing our full review, but that's a 2.
Yeah,
that nose is fantastic.
Yeah.
At worst, that's a 1.5. Ben rates things low, so he'll have it at a 0.5. But this is great.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's heavenly.
It's a pastry. You're exactly right. It's a pastry. It's bready.
Brown sugar is so.
It's like a cherry. It's like a cherry pastry. You get the bread.
Yeah.
You get cherry turnover. You get the sugar on top. You get the fruit, and then you go back to the Old Tub. Honestly, I'm just getting nothing out of the Old Tub. It's not bad.
It's true to its name. The tub. That's old, but yeah. So it's labeled right.
Now, as we noted before, there's a difference. This E.H. Taylor is about $40 or so, probably closer to $50, depending where you get it. Old Tub is going to be. I saw the ABC the other day for $19.99. So we're talking about twice the difference in price too.
And ours is probably closer to 55 or 60 because it's the single barrel. So we're talking about a bourbon that is literally 3 times the retail value.
And that I've never seen on the shelf, ever.
Correct. Yeah.
So
I get some peanut spice from the Old Tub, but
peanut shell all the way, dude. I'm with you. That is prominent.
Like Brendan mentioned, it's like the worst kind of peanut taste. It's not great. So
It's used socks. It's funky. It's stanky.
It's not that bad.
it's bad. It's not very good compared
It's
to
ain't amazing. It's
So,
definitely nutty. Definitely nutty.
This was probably an ode to bourbon before the Bottle and Bond Act when they were spiking it with iodine and rat poison. Yeah, that's what I think is happening
it's not
here.
that bad.
Yeah.
So, listen, this is probably that 1 versus 16 matchup that just ends up being a rout the whole way. The other one was close for a half, and then the better bourbon pulled away at the end. I'm excited to get to probably the next round, but let's go ahead and give it a fair shake. You guys have tasted it while I've been kind of blabbering here with sports analogies. What are we thinking, Ben? How do they taste?
I think so to me, the E.H. Taylor's palate isn't as good as the nose. I thought the nose really ran away with it. And it's kind of let me down a little bit. I mean, not enough to lose here, but it's still good.
So the substitutes are in the second half.
I was gonna say that
Right.
E.H. Taylor like went on a 3-minute, scoring drought, like 30-point lead.
Old Tub on the palate though is better than the nose, in my opinion.
I agree totally with you, dude. Whereas the E.H. Taylor was a little bit of a letdown from where the nose was to the palate. The Old Tub, it still got that weird nutty funk, which I'm not going to be able to get over, but more sugar, more sweet, a little fruitier too. Yeah, I'd take back my rat and poison claim earlier, especially if Jim Beam ever wants to sponsor us. Don't listen to this podcast.
So, well, I mean, we're also not comparing like Jim Beam's absolute best to, E.H. Taylor's single barrel, so we're
Right.
It's a 1 versus 4 matchup, Jim Beam. So please don't yell at us. It's kind of a lot of that peanut flavor to it. It's funky, but I like it. Like I was over at Ben's house like 2 weeks ago and we were drinking this and enjoying it. Like it's good if you're not drinking it next to like a $60 bourbon that everyone wants and you can't find on shelves. Like by itself, it's not a bad bourbon. We will review this soon. Maybe we do it next week. We'll see. But it's a good. Well, we probably won't do it next week since we're doing it now. But it's a good bourbon for $20. Ben, any thoughts on your beloved Old Tub before we go on to crown E.H. Taylor as the winner of this round?
Old Tub put up a good fight. I think about back a couple years ago, the Duke UCF, right? Getting out of the final seconds, but Duke won, UCF lost. And I think that's going to be the result here.
You had to bring up the UCF. I'm a UCF alum. You had to bring that up. That was cool. That was a cool thing to do.
Shout out, Jeff.
I'm surprised that Ben even knew like a sports analogy.
I know. I was really pulling it out of nowhere.
I was having to think back. I was like, wait a minute, did that really happen? Or did you make this up? So
It totally happened.
Not sure if a vote needs to happen here or not, but I assume we're going 3-0 for E.H. Taylor.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Before we get real crazy and we get to our final, which I'm going to put these back. Do we want to have a consolation real quick for E.H. Taylor in early times? Like, is there like we've been drinking the early time?
Yeah, you know what? Why not? Why not?
For the Old Tub in the early times. Let's see if our seating was correct. Who's going to claim third here? We've been drinking the Old Tub, so just jump into the early times and see what you think.
Yeah, early times better than this.
Yeah, the early times nose is much more pleasant. Sugar. It's funny how smelling that after the Old Tub one, this seems so much more delicate and like nuanced. Told you.
Gym socks now. Yeah,
remember the gym mats in like high school and middle school that they would make you like roll out on like every single like 6 periods a day. Someone's sitting on there sweating
their balls off. Yeah,
it's just it's a bacteria.
You guys are way too negative on this thing. You just can't. You have to. Whenever you pour the bottle, whenever you pour it, you have to drink it quick. The more it sits out,
if you hold your nose while you're drinking it, it makes it so much.
Because you're dogging on it. It's not that bad.
It's not that bad. We picked 3 things that were much better.
Drink the Old Tub immediately. Take a swig of early times. Do the Old Tub right after, and tell me, Ben, that it's not nasty ass gym socks. Tell me. Yeah, I will say if you like the Old Tub profile or the Jim Beam nutty, like that peanut, if you kind of like that, like this, maybe
there's a ton of nuts.
Ton of nuts.
Yeah,
it's nutty. Yep.
Who did Old Tub beat in the play-in game to even get into this thing?
It was early times, not bottled and bond.
Yeah, it's regular. Oh gosh. So we have our finals. We have our championship here. I'm excited for this championship. Two very different bourbons. Again, we've got E.H. Taylor bourbon. Again, myself and Ben on the single barrel, Brendan on the small batch. Maybe that makes a little bit of difference for him. And then we're all four drinking the Henry McKenna bottled and bond. Everything's been bottled and bond tonight. Trying to talk a little bit and let you guys do some sniffing and some tasting, and then we'll jump into it. Is anybody ready to kind of give some opening thoughts for this final matchup?
I haven't tasted yet, but on the nose, I'm gonna just say this: the two seeds got a little oomph to it, a little more than I thought. I think the E.H. Taylor is prettier still, but the McKenna's got more like vibrancy to it. I can't quite put my finger on it.
Yeah, it's it's too close to call for me on just nose. They're both good in different ways. One's like candied cherries. Other one's like darker fruit, oak, that kind of nose.
Yeah, I'm leaning E.H. Taylor just because I prefer the sweetness. So I get not only the sugary caramelness, but I also get the fruit on it. Leaning
I really
Taylor,
have to stick my nose in there for the wine glasses, by the way. Like I really have to get
well,
into
if you
it.
drank like an adult, you would not have had that happen. So anyway, flavors here. Have you tasted both of them, Ben? And where are you thinking this one is going?
Right now, it's leaning towards McKenna. I am liking the McKenna a little bit better right now. Let me sit with this for a couple minutes. The McKenna's, see what I did there. But yeah.
That was so terrible. That was so bad. That was so bad.
Oh damn, this is gonna be a close one. All right, this is why we're here, guys. This is what a tournament should be about.
You can see why McKenna won a couple years ago in San Francisco. This is solid.
As soon as that happened to everyone that liked McKenna, was like, oh, the secret is out. Like that was my first experience in bourbon of like, and people have been drinking bourbon for like 10, 15 years. I've had this happen multiple times, but like the heartbreak of like, oh, great bang for the buck bourbon is no longer going to be readily available. You just knew that as soon as it won that award.
Ooh. Oh man. Yeah.
What you got, TJ?
I don't know. This one's going to overtime. So the E.H. Taylor is definitely sweeter, which is more my palate preference, which is more what I want. But trying to separate what I want and just how quality something is, the McKenna is really, really good. And it does that spice really, really well. I'm leaning E.H. Taylor, but man, we're close here. I don't. This is not a runaway by any means. Do you have a definitive winner yet?
I do. I'm going McKenna. McKenna 10-year. Yeah, upset. Cinderella story.
So I have been and am leaning E.H. Taylor and have been the entire matchup here. So I'm going to go ahead and give my vote for E.H. Taylor.
Oh, no.
Instead of me being the deciding vote, I will let Brendan be. Well, because I already knew what mine was going to be.
Yeah, no, man.
I didn't want you to go and like render mine. I didn't want to.
Anxiety for me.
Well, here's the thing.
We have single barrel too. Just keep that in mind.
Yeah. So,
in theory, that should mean,
not enough to change,
But the
change the
McKenna
decision.
is a single barrel too, so the mileage will vary with that one as well. Whereas
what's your barrel number? What's your barrel number?
2374 barreled on.
Whoa!
But this was barreled on 2005. We were in middle school then with gym socks. Selling variable.
Mine was bought in 2009. So yeah, our bottles are very different.
Mine's a 10. Mine's a
Explosive.
10.
Yeah, but yours is a 9 that you're drinking. You're drinking
Wow. I should not have.
Just kidding. You were right. Yes.
mine. It's still sealed. All right, Brendan, take us home.
No pressure.
as he holds his wine glasses.
We're letting the guy
Double
with wine
pinky
glasses.
out.
We're letting the guy with wine glasses decide the win.
You guys knew what this was. Damn. So first off, congratulations, TJ, on the seating there. You got it right, I think. The 1-4, the 2-3, nailed it. So my preference usually is going to skew more towards sweet. I'm going to usually like something sweeter rather than harsh, stringent spiciness. That gives the McKenna somewhat of an edge in the sense like that. Those harsh notes do kind of overpower when you go back and forth. But the E.H. Taylor's just a little more balanced and a little more friendly, but not in a weak way. Like it's quality from nose to palate to finish. This is an overtime win for Colonel E.H. Taylor.
Oof.
Mr. Bottled and Bond himself. I mean, he deserves it, guys. He started all this, but damn, it was close.
It was very close. It reminds me of Ben won't get into this, but that Villanova, North Carolina game a couple of years ago when the championship, North Carolina, the kid double clutched. Do you remember that, Brendan? The kid double clutched in the air and hit a three with 4 seconds left, and Villanova drove down the length of the floor. That was the year, I believe, FSU. No, that was
Kicked a field goal.
That was a couple years before.
Sports.
That took me totally off my track. Villanova, Archie Diacono. That's right. They passed the ball off, and he hit a three as the buzzer sounded. That's what I feel like we had tonight. Back-to-back buzzer beater threes with no time on the clock. E.H. Taylor barely edges this one out, but the McKenna is really, really good. There is a distinct step down from 2 to 3 and then 3 to 4, but 1 and 2 were really close. They were the best 2 teams in the country in the BCS era. They would have been the best 2 teams without a doubt. E.H. Taylor's your winner. Ben, sorry that your pick didn't win, but man, that McKenna is really, really good. And as a consolation prize, I bought you a bottle of Henry McKenna last week, so you're welcome. Talk about dad life. Ben bought pouches for my kid that amounted to like $40, and the Henry McKenna was like $40. So like that's literally how we did that transaction. He was like, "Oh, I got your kids some pouches," and I was like, "Oh, very good. I got you a bottle of bourbon." And that's you can see whose priorities.
It's even.
You can see whose priorities are where. But the only time I believe that Costco pouches have been traded for Henry McKenna 10-year bottle and bond. Fun tournament. We've been on here for about 40 minutes, so we'll wrap up with some pursuits and purchases, and we will get out of here. Brendan, do you have anything recently in pursuits and purchases, registered trademark, copyright, trademark, all that stuff?
Patent pending. Also filed the same time as the Bottle and Bond Act of, was it 1897? I've been contemplating. I've had a bottle that's been on my radar for a while. It's not supposed to be anything earth shattering. It's supposed to be just a really good source bourbon by a blender called Redwood Empire. They apparently do some really cool things with blending and finishing and sourcing. And I've seen I think it's the entry level one. It's called Pipe Dream at ABC before, but now it's on sale. Now it's like $35. It's usually $40. So I think I got till the end of the month to do it. I think that is a pursuit for me at that price, get my ABC points and see if that's good at that price point. Maybe something we can all try on the show some point. It'll open up possibilities of some of their like more expensive, really unique barrel finished ones where they're doing with all kinds of different wine barrels. It's out in, I think it's like Sonoma, somewhere out in wine country. Right. Yeah. So I think that climate's going to help, or at least make the initial sourcing interesting. And then apparently they're going to have really cool access to different wine barrels. So that's a pursuit right now. It may be a purchase in the next week or so.
My local liquor store, Ben and I's, Lucan's, has both a 12-year and a 15-year of that bourbon. So
all right, so maybe we get into the baseline one and see if it's worth exploring. All right, I like it.
Absolutely. I had Redwood Empire at Whiskey Cake, and I thought it was pretty good. I thought their pipe dream, their bourbon was good.
You've had the pipe dream. All right.
Yeah, for a standard $35 bourbon, I thought it was good. And if you can get it on sale for a couple bucks, that's great. But yeah, I thought it was a good pour, just their standard one. What was your most recent purchase? Sometimes that's tough. There's weeks where we get like 17 points. There's weeks where we get nothing.
Easy. I hope my wife's not listening. Well, I'm trying to think of the order. It may spoil things, but the Irish ones, the Redbreast Listowel and the Redbreast Cast Strength. Yeah, they were a little bit on sale too, which was good. We did that for St. Patty's Day. It was good times. I got you guys introduced to Irish whiskey, and I think it was a good introduction.
Yeah, so go check out it's a couple weeks old now, but go check out if you're an Irish fan or you want to get into some Irish whiskey, or if you're like a Notre Dame football fan, a Boston Celtics fan, whatever you are that could maybe relate to Irish whiskey, go listen to our St. Patrick's Day episode because that was a lot of fun. Ben and I got introduced to something new. Ben, Pursuits and Purchases, where are we at?
So I said last week that I was interested in trying to find a Michter's barrel strength, bourbon or rye, anything in that Michter's line. So I follow a local liquor store on Instagram this week, and I need you guys to tell me whether or not there was some shenanigans going on. So at 8:15 in the morning, they post a video and picture detailing 2 bottles. One was Larceny Barrel Proof, one was Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. I said, okay, I want both of those bottles, but I don't know if I'm going to go grab them yet. Then they posted a video that showed a Blanton's and a Michter's Barrel Proof. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go and try to grab something. Worst case, I'm going to grab one of the other 2 bottles. So I show up, I'm 4th in line. Scott, you were first. Shout out, Scott. And we get in line and I'm like, okay, so I'm getting at least one of those bottles. So the door opens, we all walk inside. Scott, number 1, chooses Michter's Barrel. That's the right choice 100% of the time. I knew someone was going to choose Blanton's in front of me. So I was like, okay, that's fine. Third guy goes, he grabs the Elijah Craig. That's fine. I'll take Larceny Barrel Proof. It's not my favorite in the world, but it's a good barrel strength wheated bourbon. It's going to be in the same kind of realm. Like as like a foolproof Weller. Not the same. It's just in the wheated line, right? So this specific store, they put all their really rare stuff on this shelf. That's like, the craft trader store. And so you go in and you grab it. So the first guy grabbed Michter's, Blanton's, Elijah Craig. And I'm looking and I do not see Larceny Barrel Proof. So I look at the cash register. I said, hey, your owner posted videos this morning about this Larceny. And like everyone in line was like, they saw it too, because they were all there because they saw it. I'm like, oh yeah, that was there, whatever. So she like texted the owner. And I guess the general comment that they got back was there was a casualty and it's not being sold. Like there's a casualty happened and it didn't get here. And I was like, well then, like 45 minutes ago, you posted a picture of it. So within the last 45 minutes, apparently there's a casualty. I don't know. But all I know is I left that store with empty-handed. I wasn't going to buy nothing else. I was like, I'm out of here, guys. Like, what happened? So I don't know if there's any shenanigans going on. There could have been. Like, maybe they're loading the shelf and one fell off and, it's splattered and they somehow cleaned up the entire broken bottle and, spilled liquor before the store opened. I don't know. But that was my pursuit. And no purchase this week.
No purchase at all, out of principle.
Zero purchase out of principle. You walk out of that thing.
So that store does a bunch of releases on Friday mornings. If you're in the Tampa area, you probably know. Brendan,
don't drop it.
You know Allie Peak that I do the Peak to Pit podcast with? I tag her. Scott's her brother. He played for UF.
Scott.
So like it's funny that that's who got it in front of Ben.
A listener. So
yeah, no, he checks us out. So shout out to Scott. When he told me it was Scott, the guy, I was like, no way, is he the guy that beat you out? So anyway, yeah, probably some shenanigans going on. They do, but anyway, they do releases on Friday mornings a lot. There's usually a line, and there's usually like 6 or 7 things. But once you get down low enough, like that 5th or 6th or 7th thing is just, like Buffalo Trace or something. Like, it's not something you necessarily want to go grab every time, so Ben just left with nothing. So his pursuit was hopeful to be a purchase. It ended up being a big fat zero. Somebody asked me this today. Somebody that I used to work with, her husband messaged me on Instagram, said he started listening. Shout out Joey. Thanks for listening and checking us out. He asked me what I've been pursuing recently. I feel like I bought a ton of junk recently, so I don't even know what I'm pursuing. So I don't have a great answer there. I would take anything barrel. I'm sorry. I would take anything toasted barrel just because I like that, and I will eventually drink it. I'm getting kind of low on some of those things up there. I got a bottle missing. Oh, it's that bourbon over there. So anything toasted barrel I would take. Still kind of pursuing the Blanton's with my son's birth date on it. I do have a purchase, an interesting purchase that I'm not going to go super far into detail on, but Ben knows about this. I picked up what he was looking for.
Devastation.
Devastation. Long story short, I picked this up and it's already kind of spoken for is kind of how that's going to work. We'll get into like the shenanigans of where this is going later. But I was able to basically pick this up. It's spoken for. And by picking this up, I got a few things for free. Is kind of how that works.
This, TJ, means the Michter's barrel strength rye for people not.
Thank you. Yeah, for the people not watching. So I picked this up. When was it? Yesterday, Ben? Was it yesterday I picked this up?
It was yesterday.
At a local store. So what Ben doesn't know is that I picked up another one last Saturday when I was riding around with Brian. And so for the second time, Ben has a pursuit that he's been looking for. And Ben, I would like to tell you that I'll sell you this at retail. So I got you hooked. I got you hooked up. I got you hooked up on what you were looking for. This one's still going. Like, we're not keeping this, but I got you on this. We'll drink it sometime this week. I'll see you soon. So that was my most recent purchase, was buying something for a buddy. Every time this happens, Brendan calls me. He's like, dude, why don't you ever find any of the things that I want to pursue? Like, why has it always been every time? So I guess you're the lucky one for some reason.
I've been on the lookout for a Pappy 23 TJ. If you happen to find it at retail, let me know.
So,
all right.
Anyway,
where did you get the other barrel strength?
I'll have to tell you off air.
Oh, dang it. I love it.
So anyway, so I got you one of those, surprise, and I'll get that to you at cost. So I think that's it. I think that's it for our pursuits and purchases. Shout out our social media real quick, Brendan, and we will then we'll get out of here.
Yeah, go to Twitter at Bourbon Budget. Also on Instagram, you can follow us. We're going to have all sorts of pretty pictures on there, which I guess is what you do on Instagram. But also we do the occasional giveaway, so you want to make sure you're following us for that as well. And we're going to start tweeting out some cool links to stories that we find, just any kind of bourbon general information you want to know. Bourbon on a Budget. That's where you're going to find it.
Hey, we have our review show coming out in 2 days. That is April Fool's, so maybe we have some shenanigans in store for you. Maybe not. Check out our review show. Subscribe on iTunes, on YouTube. It's Bourbon on a Budget. We will see you guys next week. Cheers.